She was a Nigerian maid. He was a Dubai prince. She thought he forgot her. 3 years later, what the palace tried to cover, the internet uncovered. Welcome to Rich Side Stories. Tell us where you're watching from in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing stories. She had never even been on a plane before. Zainab was just 22, born and raised in the bustling streets of Lagos. Her days were filled with lectures, late-night studying under candlelight, during blackouts, and dreams far bigger than her neighborhood could hold. So when she got the email, a paid internship at a luxury hotel in Dubai, she screamed so loudly her neighbor came knocking. She arrived in the city of gold with wide eyes and borrowed heels. Dubai was nothing like home. Glass towers that scraped the clouds, cars that looked like spaceships, and rooms that cost more than her father's yearly salary. She kept her head down and worked hard. Every shift, every tray, every word was perfect, because she knew one wrong move, and it was all over. Then came that night. She was pulled aside by her manager, nervous, fidgety. "Zainab, you'll serve in the royal lounge tonight. No mistakes, no eye contact, no speaking unless spoken."
2.
Her hands trembled as she pushed open the gilded doors. Inside, men in white robes laughed under chandeliers. Bodyguards lined the walls, but her eyes stopped on one man. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't talking. He was watching her. Tall, impossibly, handsome. Dressed in white, but with a calm stillness that made the whole room seem quieter. Prince Khalid. She didn't know it yet, but that one night, that one assignment, was about to change her life forever. The rules were simple: no mingling with guests, especially not the royals. Zainab followed every one of them. Until him. After that night in the royal lounge, Prince Khalid kept appearing. In the lobby, at the restaurant, near the staff entrance. Always casual, always alone, and always looking for her. At first, she thought it was coincidence. But then came the first request. "I'd like Zainab to handle my table." It shocked everyone, including her. The managers obeyed. How could they say no to a prince? Their conversations began with small things: where she was from, what she studied, why she walked like she was always ready to run. Then it was jokes, laughter, long glances across crowded rooms. She never meant to fall, but his eyes, his words, they felt safe, like home in a foreign land. And when he invited her for a walk by the marina one night, she told herself it was just a stroll, just two people under the stars. But it wasn't just a walk. It became a ritual. Every few nights, after the world fell asleep, they'd meet near the water. No guards, no cameras, just whispered stories and hearts that beat too loud. "I feel free with you," he once said, watching the moon dance on the waves. "I can't be myself anywhere else." She smiled, said nothing. But in her chest, a silent promise was forming, and in his, a storm was already brewing. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Zainab knew it, so did he. But feelings aren't ruled by royal protocols or visa stamps. They tried to fight it at first. He'd smile, she'd look away, she'd blush, and he'd pretend not to notice. But the truth had already taken root, deep, undeniable, and dangerous. In hidden corners of the city, beneath the hush of night, their love blossomed. He brought her dates from the royal orchard. She gifted him handwritten notes folded into paper cranes. They talked about everything, except the future. Because the truth was always waiting, like a shadow behind them. Zainab was a Nigerian girl from a modest home. Khalid was a prince of Dubai, heir to a throne built on generations of tradition. He never told her what he faced behind palace walls: the arranged marriage talks, the surveillance, the pressure, but she saw it in his eyes every time they parted. One night he held her hand just a little longer and whispered, "You're the only part of Dubai that feels real." Her heart cracked a little, because even in That moment she knew they weren't writing a fairy tale. They were walking on a tightrope with no safety net. And then, just like that, he vanished. No call, no goodbye, no explanation. His number? Disconnected. His social accounts? Wiped clean. Even the hotel staff went silent, like he'd never existed. Zainab waited. Days turned into weeks. She told herself he'd come back, that there had to be a reason. But deep down, she knew what no one else wanted to say. Love wasn't enough, not in his world. And for the first time since arriving in Dubai, Zainab finally felt small, alone, forgotten, and carrying something more than just heartbreak. Zainab returned to Lagos with a suitcase full of silence. No one knew what had happened in Dubai, not her roommates, not her mother, not even her reflection in the mirror. She still checked her phone every night, still waited for a message, a voice note, anything. But Prince Khalid had disappeared like a dream she wasn't allowed to wake up from. Weeks passed. She buried herself in chores, pretending nothing had changed, but her body. It told a different story. It started with nausea, then the dizziness, then the missed dates on the calendar. She sat in the corner of a dusty pharmacy, her hands shaking around a crumpled receipt. She didn't want to look at the test. She didn't want the truth. But there it was, 2 pink lines. Pregnant, Zainab's heart stopped. The world around her blurred. The floor didn't move. But her whole life did. She was 22, unmarried, alone, and pregnant by a man who no longer existed outside her memories. She ran out of the pharmacy without saying a word. That night she vomited until her throat burned, but not from the pregnancy. From the shame, the fear, the anger at herself for believing in fairy tales. She tried to call him again, and again, and again. User not available. Number does not exist. Message failed to send. She stared at the screen like it might suddenly light up and say, "I'm sorry, I'm here, I'm coming," but it never did. When her parents found out, it wasn't yelling that hurt the most. It was the silence. Her mother just sat there, pressing her palms to her face. Her father walked out of the house and didn't return until sunrise. She stopped going out, stopped replying to friends, stopped dreaming. The girl who once walked through Dubai's golden halls now walked with her head down through Lagos markets, hiding the growing life inside her. And the broken one inside her heart. Her royal romance was gone, but something was still growing, quietly, powerfully, and soon. It would change everything. The hospital room was bare. No flowers, no visitors, no camera flashes or proud family waiting outside. Just Zainab and the sound of her son's first cry. She held him in trembling arms, tears streaming down her cheeks, not just from pain, but from the weight of everything she'd lost and everything she'd just gained. She named him Karim. It means noble, because no matter how he came into this world, she knew he was royalty in her eyes. He had his father's eyes and her stubborn jaw, but she never said his name. Not once, not to the nurses, not to the registry, not even when Karim learned to say, "Daddy?" She raised him with strength stitched from struggle. Early mornings were for cleaning offices, afternoons were spent selling fruit at the roadside, evenings were for tutoring neighborhood kids. She never asked for help, because no one knew what she was carrying, not just a child, but a secret that could shatter kingdoms. At night, when Karim would fall asleep on her chest, she'd stare out at the ceiling and whisper, "I hope you're safe. I hope you're kind. But most of all, I hope you never see how hard I had to fight to keep your son alive." Sometimes she'd scroll through old photos of Dubai, the glowing skyline, the marina where they used to walk, a screenshot of Khalid's number she could never bring herself to delete. She never dated, never complained, never stopped moving. But somewhere deep inside her, buried beneath the layers of grief, survival, and silence, was a quiet hope, a hope that maybe, just maybe, one day Khalid would remember. But most days, she believed he never would. It had been 3 years. Karim was now walking, talking, and asking questions Zainab couldn't always answer. Why don't I have a daddy? Or why don't I look like Grandpa? Why is my name not like the others? Zainab always smiled and changed the subject. She thought the secret was safe, buried, protected. Until one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. A Lagos. Clinic overcrowded, underfunded, and understaffed. Karim had come down with a fever, nothing serious, but enough to make Zainab rush him in. The waiting room was packed, children crying, fans spinning slowly. Zainab was clutching her son, trying not to panic. That's when the stranger walked in, tall, dressed in a sharp suit, surrounded by quiet, serious-looking men. He didn't belong there. Not in that world, but he moved with purpose, straight to a coughing child in the corner. He knelt, helped adjust the IV, gave the mother an envelope, then whispered something to the clinic manager. A curious onlooker pulled out their phone, one 15-second clip, posted with the caption, "Who's this fine Arab man at Yaba Clinic? Prince vibes." At first it was just gossip. Is this guy a diplomat? Why? Does he look like a sheikh? Wait, is that Zainab's son next to him? Then the comments started coming in. That kid looks just like Prince Khalid from those old Dubai tabloids. Check the boy's nose, ears, even the eyes. Guys, what if that's his son? Within hours, the video hit 100,000 views. By the next morning, 0.2 million. Royal. Media scrambled. PR teams called it fake. The palace denied Khalid was even in Africa. Every blog that posted the video was threatened with lawsuits, but it was too late. Screenshots, face comparisons, side-by-side baby photos of Khalid and Karim. Even AI face matches were dragged into the frenzy. The internet had found the thread, and now they were pulling it with both hands. Inside the walls of the Dubai palace, panic, outrage, betrayal, and for the first time in years, Prince Khalid's name was trending again, not for politics, not for charity, but for a child with his eyes and his blood. The video was everywhere. Zainab saw it too. She froze the moment Karim's face appeared on screen. Standing beside the man she thought she'd never see again, Prince Khalid. Her heart didn't know whether to beat faster or stop altogether. Could it be real? Was it just a look-alike? Was it him? Or just her hope playing tricks she didn't have? Time to decide. 3 days later, it happened. A black SUV pulled up outside her compound, shiny, tinted, out of place. Children stopped playing, neighbors peered through cracked windows, and Zainab, she couldn't breathe. The door opened, and he stepped out, Prince Khalid, but he wasn't the man she remembered from those Dubai nights. This Khalid looked older, no robe, no guards, just a man in a simple black shirt, his face worn with time, his eyes full of something she didn't expect. Remorse. He walked past the curious stairs, straight toward her. Zainab stood frozen in the doorway, clutching Karim's small backpack like a shield. Karim peeked from behind her legs, wide-eyed, silent. And then Khalid knelt right there, in the red dust of Lagos, not like a prince, not like royalty, but like a man meeting his son for the first time. "I know you don't remember me," he said softly, eyes locked with Karim's, "but I've remembered you every single day." Zainab's voice cracked before she could speak. Her throat tightened. Her knees felt weak. All the pain she buried came rushing back. But Khalid turned to her gently, and in a voice that trembled, he said, "I never stopped searching, Zainab. They erased everything, blocked my calls, took my devices. When I found, how dare it was already too late." She looked at him, not as a prince, not as her past, but as a man who once held her heart, and might still hold a piece of it. And for a moment, just one long, quiet moment, she didn't know whether to scream or forgive. The moment hit the palace like a sandstorm. A child, a scandal, a prince. The royal advisors, flew into crisis. Modota private jet was sent to Lagos. Khalid was ordered to bring the child home, not as a father, but as a liability. They demanded a DNA test. No negotiation, no hesitation. Zainab didn't argue. She simply held Karim's hand as they walked. Into the cold, a white room. She didn't flinch when they took the samples, didn't blink when the papers came. She already knew the truth, but when the results came back, 99.98% paternity match, everything changed. In Dubai, headlines exploded. Royal bloodline questioned. Secret heir discovered in Africa. Prince Khalid's illegitimate son sparks royal controversy. Behind palace walls, the pressure began to crush Khalid. They gave him a choice, quick, clean, final. Marry the princess chosen by the council, secure the bloodline, deny everything, or walk away from the crown, from everything he was raised to. Become. He paced the marble floors of the palace, staring at the gold and thinking only of dust, of the red earth outside Zainab's home, of Karim's laugh, of the woman who once loved him with nothing but heart. He flew back to Lagos one last time, tired, torn, every word on his tongue aching to explain. But before he could speak, Zainab stopped him. Her eyes didn't beg. Her voice didn't tremble. She was no longer the girl he once left behind. She was a woman who had survived without him, and she said, "Don't choose me, Khalid. Choose truth. Because if you choose me out of guilt, if you walk away from everything just to make things right, then you'll lose yourself. And I won't be part of that." Tears welled in his eyes. Because that was love too. Not the kind written in stories, but the kind that knows when to let go. Now the world watched in silence. What would the prince choose? A crown or a life he never thought he'd have? The night was glittering. Dubai's elite gathered beneath crystal chandeliers in the heart of the desert, a grand charity gala wrapped in gold, silk, and secrets. The invitation read, "Royal announcement expected. All eyes on Prince Khalid." Rumors swirled like perfume in the air. Some said he would confirm his engagement. Others whispered about the African scandal. But everyone agreed on one thing. Tonight, something would change. Khalid arrived late, alone. No fiancée on his arm. Just a dark tailored suit, his jaw tight, and a glint in his eyes that no one could quite read. He climbed the stage to polite applause. The ballroom hushed. He cleared his throat, looked down at the cue cards, then slowly folded them and set them aside, and said, "When I was younger, I was taught that duty comes before heart, that tradition is greater than truth, that silence protects legacy. But then I met a woman who spoke with no power, who loved with no throne, and gave me something no royal decree ever had, a reason to be human. She gave me her trust. She gave me her heart, and when I left, she still gave me the greatest gift of all, a son. His name is Karim, and he's mine. I will not deny him. I will not erase her, because I have already made my choice." Gasps filled the room. Cameras snapped like firecrackers. The royal advisors stood frozen in horror. And then he raised one hand from the shadows near the back of the ballroom. Zainab appeared, wearing a modest gown of deep blue, eyes wide, shoulders stiff. She hadn't been invited, but Khalid had made sure she'd be allowed in. He motioned her forward. "Come," he said softly. The room parted like waves. She walked, slowly, cautiously, through a sea of diamonds and judgment, and when she reached the stage, he didn't wait, he knelt. Right there, in front of Dubai's richest and most powerful, Khalid lowered himself before the woman they all said he should have forgotten. He held out a ring, not royal, not flashy, but simple and sincere, and said, his voice breaking, "You gave me a son, you gave me life, will you give me forever?" The silence was electric, even the cameras seemed to pause. Zainab looked down at him, at the ring, at the prince who had once broken her heart. now kneeling. To piece it back together, the palace gates opened, but this time Zainab didn't arrive through the side entrance. She didn't wear a borrowed uniform. She didn't lower her gaze. She walked straight through the front, head high, heart full, and her son in her arms. Karim clutched a small stuffed camel. Zainab wore soft pastels, her hair wrapped gently in royal fabric, gifted by the queen herself. Maids stood along the walls, not to judge, but to bow. Advisors who once scoffed now looked away in shame, and the marble beneath her feet no longer felt cold, because this wasn't the same girl who had once hidden her pregnancy in the shadows of Lagos. This was a woman the prince had chosen, a mother who had raised a child in silence and strength, a survivor. Now a queen in everything but title, she passed a golden-framed mirror near the grand staircase and paused for just a moment. In the reflection, she saw Karim smiling. He had already made himself at home, running through the palace garden with royal cousins, chasing butterflies he'd only ever seen in books. A staff member leaned in and whispered, "His laughter echoes through these halls. We haven't heard that in years." Zainab blinked back tears. Later that night, as the sky turned a deep indigo and lanterns lit the desert beyond the walls, Khalid found her standing on a palace balcony, watching their son sleep. He didn't say anything at first. He just wrapped his arms around her from behind, rested his chin on her shoulder, and breathed her in. Then, with quiet conviction, he kissed her forehead and whispered, "You weren't a mistake, you were my miracle." She closed her eyes, not because she was dreaming, but because for the first time in her life, she was finally awake, and the girl from Lagos was now the woman the palace would never forget. She never asked to be royalty. She never dreamed of crowns or castles. All she ever wanted was to be seen, to be heard, to be loved without conditions. Now, years later, Zainab stands on a global stage, no longer just the girl from Lagos. Now she is a speaker, a mother, a symbol of grace in rooms that once had no place for her. She creates the Karim Foundation, an international initiative that provides housing, education, and legal support for single mothers across borders. From Nigeria to the UAE, from small villages to skyscrapers, her story spreads like fire. The woman who once had nothing is now giving everything to those who need it most. And every time she's handed a microphone, every time her story is requested, every time the cameras begin to roll, she smiles softly, steadies her voice, and begins the same way. "I was a girl they tried to erase, but love remembered me." And when she says those words, the room falls silent, because it's not just her story anymore, it's ours. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Rich Side Stories, where every tale proves that behind every fortune, there's a deeper fight. What would you have done if you were Zainab? Tell us in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next video.